A decision of the 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled this week in favor of Coloradan Michael Baca. As a presidential elector in Colorado, he was required by state statute to vote for the winner of the popular vote in Colorado in 2016, Hillary Clinton. When he voted instead for John Kasich, the Secretary of State removed him and replaced him with an alternate elector. The appeals court decision found that to be unconstitutional. David, you are our esteemed lawyer at the table. What's the legal angle of all this that we need to know, which is more profound than just what happens to Michael Baca?
Well, the Independence Institute filed an amicus brief in this case, which was on Michael Baca's side, discussing the original meaning of Article 2 of the Constitution, which sets up the Electoral College, and then the 12th Amendment from the early 1800s, which modified the Electoral College. And as the 10th Circuit recognized, the text and the original meaning are all very clear, that the electors in the Electoral College are choosers. That's what an elector means by all the dictionaries of the time and by all the congressional commentary and everything else on it. The states have complete power in how an elector is chosen. But then once the elector is chosen, then the elector has free choice, him or herself. And that's just what the law neutrally interpreted says. It sets up a conflict between a similar case in which we filed an amicus brief in Washington State, where the Washington Supreme Court ruled 8-1 against the original meaning, partly by, instead of using dictionaries from the time, using a modern dictionary. And hopefully the Colorado and Washington cases will get consolidated together or joined and go to the U.S. Supreme Court, because as Secretary of State Griswold and her predecessor, Secretary of State Williams, all agree, everybody on all sides agrees, this is an issue that should be resolved by the Supreme Court with finality before it comes up in a way that could actually alter the outcome of a presidential election. Let's at least have the rules set in advance rather than in the middle of some conflict where it might affect the result.
Eric, it sounds like becoming an elector for the Electoral College in Colorado, which seemingly was something barely mentioned on your LinkedIn page, now seems pretty cool. What do you think?
I'll leave the legal analysis to David, and I think he's right, and I suspect the circuit, the 10th Circuit, got it right here. From a politically pragmatic point of view, I think this is troubling. I mean, we're about to have a big debate in a year from now in the lead up to the 2020 election about the Electoral College, given that the National Popular Vote Compact is going to be the repeal of what the Colorado legislature did is going to be on the ballot a year from now. I think if you go back into history books, yes, the purpose of electors was exactly what David enunciated and what the 10th Circuit enunciated. I think in this day and age, it is hard enough to defend the Electoral College, an institution that I think still has value. But if all of a sudden you're going to make electors total free agents, that gets increasingly tricky to explain and increasingly tricky to defend. Now, what Michael Baca did was of no consequence because he was a Hillary Clinton elector, and obviously Hillary Clinton didn't have enough electoral votes to win the Electoral College. This was a protest vote. He was trying to send a signal to Republican electors in other states that they could move away from their candidate. But if you saw this in a way that really tipped a presidential election or threatened to tip a presidential election, I think it gets very, very tricky very, very quickly.
Noel, it feels like we're about to learn a lot more about the Electoral College this year and the next year. What do you think?
Absolutely. I went back and brushed up on high school civics, like what? Just to make sure I was understanding. I think right now the Electoral College is the system that we have. It's part of the whole U.S. voting system. You allow people like Colorado voted for Hillary Clinton, but I'm going to go in and vote my own way. Protest vote or not, it sets a dangerous precedent. What if big money in politics comes in and buys off the electoral delegates, and then the little guy's vote means even less? I just think this is, like, right now this is the system we have, and it's kind of scary thinking that people could go rogue and vote en masse and completely upend a popular election in their state and vote the opposite of the people.
Natasha, we're likely going to be voting on the National Popular Vote Act that the legislature acted on our behalf this last session. This sounds like it's going to impact that vote. I know we're getting into a lot of schoolhouse rock stuff here, but it's some pretty deep stuff. Do you think we're going to be seeing some effect of what people's opinions in the Electoral College that may not have even had any opinions just 6 months ago?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I will agree with the sentiment that I wish I would have paid attention better. Like maybe I have a time machine to go back to that civics class and find out what happened there, because I'm certainly learning more about it as an adult. But I think that this feels like breaking news, and it is, but it's been a slow build. Every election cycle that we've had in recent history brings up this question of the Electoral College and its role in our democracy. And it's an important one, but I don't think it's one that we're going to solve just in this case. And I think there's a bigger question of just the Electoral College as it is. Is that something that we want, or are we finding Band-Aid solutions around it, whether that's a national popular vote or whether that's what happened in this situation? And that conversation I don't think is going to be completed by 2020, but I think 2020 will continue that conversation in ways that we perhaps can't even predict at this table.